Welcome to TYRO TV. I'm Ron Tiarina.
And I'm Cathy Tiarina. And for those of you that don't know our story, Ron and I did 15 years in the prison system. Ron doing time on the inside, while the kids and I did the time on the outside.
Well, that's the whole thing Cathy just said. We did the time didn't do us.
Right.
And that's why we developed a curriculum out of our experience called TYRO. TYRO is a Latin word which means apprentice, novice, someone learning something new, a warrior.
A warrior. And that's exactly what we train dads to be, is warriors for their family, their community, and their workplace. Because I will tell you, every day you have got to fight for your legacy.
And you got to know what you're fighting for, and you got to know some key principles on how to activate them in your life so that you can go from this type of environment into a workforce, into your fatherhood becoming home, and really activate these principles in your life so you can be the best dad you can be.
So today we are super excited because we've got two experts in the field that we're really going to help you understand how to convey the absolute best message to your kids to ensure their optimal health.
You know, in today's world, sweetheart, we are dealing with such social media overload, right? And there's some things that are being said out there that really we want to protect our children as long as we can.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I've noticed in today's society, they're not really prone to keep the innocence of our kids as long as possible.
Today we're really going to tackle a really tough topic, and that is sex. It's like, how do you talk to your kids about sex? How do you protect them? How do you keep them safe? How do you ensure for them the absolute best future? And that's why we invited two special guests to really help you frame that message and understand how do you convey that to them to help them bridge from childhood into responsible adulthood.
You know, one of the hardest jobs any dad could have is fathering from behind bars. And because that's not easy. There's no manual, there's no how-to, and I think a lot of the times because of the distance between dad and the kids, that barrier, that wall is automatically going to be built because your children are angry, they're hurt because you're not there, and they're dealing with
grieving. They have so much loss, right?
And they're dealing to deal with society on terms that are not fair, right? And so we want to help you and we want to empower you with today's special guest to help you really be able to convey a message of hope and really help your children to dream and to really, we believe that they have the power, the ability to make the right decisions with the right insight and the right wisdom being delivered to them.
Right. So you are not going to want to miss today's show as we talk about sex and how to talk to your kids about sex and how to ensure their healthiest future.
And dads, listen, I remember when I was in prison and I'm trying to talk to my two sons about SCX, you know, and they're looking at me.
In a prison visiting room.
In a prison visiting room. It wasn't easy. You know, I'm trying to eat and talk at the same time because, all right, guys, now listen to me. What I'm going to tell you, and they were quick to say, Dad, are you going to talk to us about...
But it was so important.
Yeah. And we did it, and it went, and it was great. Today, our sons are healthy. They're not only thriving, but living great lives. So stay tuned, and we will be right back. You don't want to miss this.
TYRO Dads will help you to see who you really are on the inside by coming to terms with your past, present, and future. You will begin to move forward by using your time on the inside to transform yourself. We know you're not the only one serving time. Your family is too. Overcoming the issues that existed prior to and during incarceration are often more than what many families can survive. TYRO Dads has a unique method of reaching and healing families based on Ron and Catherine Tiarina's own personal experiences. TYRO Dads works exclusively with incarcerated fathers who have minor children. The program lasts for 10 weeks and focuses on intensive character development. You'll be taught to take responsibility for your actions. To own it, you'll be prepared to overcome the obstacles of incarceration and transition back into your home and community, both successfully and permanently. Upon successful completion of this program, you will earn the title of TYRO, which means a warrior, someone learning something new. You will be one of the honored, a man worth following. If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO, or you want to know more, contact your local project facilitator or your institution staff.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron Tiarina.
And I'm Cathy Tiarina. And we want to welcome our very special guest, MaryAnn Mosack.
High five.
And Thelma Moton.
Thelma, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited to have you guys on the show.
Well, it is a pleasure to be with both of you.
Wow. So tell us pretty much, and we'll start with you, MaryAnn. What do you do? I mean, why are you an expert in your field?
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually the executive executive director of an organization called Ascend, and we help the field of sexual risk avoidance education. So we train educators in how to go into schools, after-school programs, any kind of setting, and how to talk to children about sex, including parents.
That's
So I'm sure your audience may be interested in that.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
awesome.
absolutely.
And Thelma, what do you do?
Well, I am the executive director of an organization called Choosing to Excel, and we provide sexual risk avoidance education to students from 6th grade through college, through the freshman years of college.
Wonderful.
And we work in detail with helping parents understand the importance of being open and honest and upfront about addressing very difficult issues such as sex.
Well, we're hoping
awesome.
today that you're able to give us insight on really helping a father from behind bars when they have an opportunity to speak with their children during a visit or maybe even a phone call or even letters, because those are the means of communication. I think now the penitentiaries are moving into video conferencing, but really sticking with what the norm is.
But before we get there, I really want to lay a really solid foundation because I really want the fathers and the moms out there that are watching this to really understand what it is we're talking about and why it's even important to have the conversations. So can you start telling us a little bit, what is SRA, sexual risk avoidance? What does that even mean?
Sexual risk avoidance is actually based on a public health of risk avoidance, all right? So when we talk about smoking, what's our basic message? If you don't smoke, don't start. Avoid the risk, okay? If you do, let us help you quit. Let's take you back to a risk-free status. So when we apply that to sex, it's sexual risk avoidance. We desire that every student have the information and skills that they can avoid the consequences and possible pregnancy, disease, or whatever from sexual choices. And so sexual risk avoidance education empowers young people to avoid sex.
That's awesome. So Thelma, like a practical application, when you say we teach SRA and we work with youth, like what are some of the things that you do?
Our hope and our desire is to help parents understand how to be open and upfront and honest with their young people about what they are experiencing when their body changes, the messages they're hearing. It's okay if you feel sexual. That means your body is okay. And what do you do with that?
Right.
How do you avoid certain situations? Fathers specifically talking to young girls about how to stay out of situations and how to avoid what to look for and what to listen for when they're talking to a young man, and just giving them those types of instructions, refusal skills, basically. Life skills, but refusal skills.
I love that term, refusal skills. I think because, when we talk about what is it, it's empowering our young people to have the ability and the knowledge why they're going to say no, right? Not the fear tactic. Wisdom. This brings wisdom. We're not going to make you afraid of sex, right? But we're going to show you the essence of it and the greatness of it when it's properly put in proper context, right? Because I think one of the things with fathers, if a man goes to prison and he's a dad, the chances of his daughter getting pregnant out of wedlock have increased by 7 times just because he went to prison. And so what's that telling me is there's no intervention taking place.
And
right?
what that is telling me is how vitally important it is that dads are involved and engaged in the conversation and setting that role model.
And communicating often with their young girls. And it's important to get a letter from daddy. Yes, the phone calls are good, but to get that letter from daddy with little Jane's name and saying how precious she is and what your expectations are for her. We need to speak those expectations, not just think that they're going to get it, but 1, 2, 3, this is what I expect, and this is how I'd like to help get you to that point.
And those are great things, and we're going to talk about that when we talk in the segment about how giving them tidbits and anecdotes, how they can empower the dads to do this.
So what is the current climate? I mean, why is it important to even have those conversations? When we think about, talking to kids about sexual risk avoidance, what are some messages or what's happening out there in society today?
Well, all you have to do is look at social media and the messages that are coming. And it's very important, the messages that we give to young people about sex. And fathers in particular have such a role to play in affirming their sons and their daughters.
Yep.
And it doesn't cost money to affirm them.
That's
it
right.
just it takes a big heart and an understanding and love.
Awesome.
Awesome. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we want to talk about why it's so important. Why is it important that the kids hear this message, and especially from their parents? So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Playing catch, basketball, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. These are all normal things on the outside, but many times are missed in a visitation setting. TYRO Dads brings the same fun experience to the inside through Family Days. As a TYRO Dad, you have the opportunity to participate in this fantastic event. Family Day is designed to allow fathers and families to engage with each other through activities designed to stimulate communication, learning, and play. Family Days will not only be a highlight for you, but for your children as well. The Ridge Project has strategically developed Family Day as an opportunity to help you connect with your child throughout your separation and help both of you develop skills to continue building your relationship when you return home.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron Tiarina.
And I'm Cathy Tiarina.
And we have with us such not only powerful influencers of our society today, but two great, wonderful ladies. And we got MaryAnn and Thelma.
Yeah.
Not Thelma and Louise, but, but MaryAnn and Thelma. And again, real quick, just go back. What organization are you with, and what is your position?
I'm the executive director of a national organization called Ascend.
Ascend. And where is that located? I'm sorry, Thelma.
Washington, D.C.
Ooh, Washington, D.C.
1701 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Wow.
Wonderful.
And
Right.
Thelma,
And I am the executive director of Choosing to Excel, and we operate out of Central Arkansas.
wow. So we're really branching out. TYRO, baby. Branching out. So we are so pleased to have you.
So
And
we talked in the last segment. I want to get right to it.
Yep,
Sorry,
yep,
Ron.
that's okay.
Because I just want to make sure that dads, you have all the information at your disposal, and we can take as much advantage of them while they're here as we can. So we were talking about, really what is sexual risk avoidance, and now I really want to focus on why is that an important message today? Why is it important that dads talk about it? Why is it important anybody talks about it?
Well, this is what we know from the research, and I think it's surprising. It surprised me, and I'm sure it may surprise some folks in your audience. But when you talk about sex, we ask teens, who influences your decisions about sex more? More than half of the teens say their parents.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
They want to hear from their parents. It's amazing. And it holds. Even as they get to be older, when they turn 16, friends start to have a bigger influence, but still parents have a major role. And that's what the research says, and we think we need to, act on that
Yes.
research and empower parents, and especially dads. Don't avoid the topic, because you know what? Everything in society is they're not avoiding the topic. Your sons and daughters are getting all kinds of messages, and you can be a great influence, and you can blunt, and you can correct, and give some input that will help that.
I think one of the things that we face, and Thelma, maybe you've seen this with, and maybe I don't know, with the fathers that you get to work with in DC or in Arkansas, dads in penitentiary sometimes have a tendency not wanting to be dad, but to be friend. Right? And so we want to encourage our fathers that we're working with, listen, they don't need a friend. And they're like, well, I'm out of their life. They're already mad at me. I want to try to win them over. You know what? When you're giving in that type of caregiving attitude where you're putting out your heart what you believe in, last week you're talking about affirmations and telling your little girl, you are my princess and you are precious to me. Is there something why is it important that a dad recognize your role as a father, not as a friend?
Well, the voices that our young people are listening to, and they're loud. They're loud voices. Social media voices are loud. The music is loud, and it's degrading. A lot of it is degrading our young women. The music does not elevate their self-esteem. So it's extremely important that daddy is speaking self-esteem and building up that young lady and letting her know her value. And it needs to be heard from daddy. It's amazing how many of my young girls will share with me the void of their dad. Just my dad does not make me feel that I matter. I had one little girl says, all I want is just if he could just give me a call, but it's like I don't even exist. And I'm sure it's because dad feels ashamed. But dad needs to put that in its place and remember that it's bigger than him.
That's right.
That our young people need to know that they matter and that they have that sense that I matter with my dad. And it's moms are important, but daddies don't understand the role they play in their sons and their daughters' lives.
You know, I think when I think about what we just said, because I think even me growing up, it was machismo. You know, even the father would encourage the son, you know, you need to become a man and I'm going to take you, and maybe they took him to a prostitute, or maybe they encouraged them, you know, to get that notch under the belt. And that's really, to me, you know, that's not being a man of honor, a man of good character. That's another grown man with little boy issues, thinking that makes you a man and to be sleeping with all types of other ladies. So
that leads me really well into my next question, and so that's for both of you or either of you. So oftentimes, and it makes me really frustrated, so I'll just say that right now, and I heard people say, you know, if you're working with children of incarcerated parents and you're working with the families, you can't really expect them to be abstinent. I mean, the statistics show that they're going to have sex anyway, so you really need to be talking to them about how to have the safest sex possible, and not about the risk avoidance model. So what would you say to that?
Well, I'd like to take that because I get very worked up about that because I think that when we withhold the information that could be given to any teen to achieve optimal sexual health and well-being, if we withhold that information, I think that's advantage discrimination.
Wow.
They're being discriminated against, and we're withholding what could give them the best advantage for their life outcomes. And so, you know, I just really want, you know, to speak directly to a father who is sitting now in prison and thinks that somehow his son or daughter has to be a statistic. They do not. They deserve the best information. They deserve your parenting. And, you know, you had asked before about, you know, a parent or a friend, but adolescents really need parents. And because a parent actually gives security. A parent creates a boundary. They may not say that. They may act like, well, I don't want any boundaries. But really they want boundaries because that makes them feel safe. And it also makes them feel loved, as what Thelma was saying.
And it doesn't matter. I hear young boys, I love to hear them say, my dad, my dad. I mean, referring to their dad, you should see that sense of pride, no matter where that dad is. And if dad is making them feel valuable, even if it's from behind bars, that's giving that sense of pride to that young boy. You know, and then that expectation that our young people can't attain to self-efficacy.
That makes me so mad.
It really makes you angry. And it's almost saying you have to be a victim because of. You know, you might be a victim, but you don't have to live like a victim.
That's right.
You can choose. You can make better choices. And from behind the bars, you can instruct your young people how not to follow that path. That's largely why I started what we do, is because the path that I had taken, I did not want to see other young people follow that path. And so I wanted them to know you don't have to follow this path. There are other directions.
That's right.
It's not enough to tell kids what not to do. We've got to show them what they can do, and then we've got to empower them as to how to do it.
That is a great place to pause, because when we come back, we are going to hear from Thelma, and we're also going to hear from MaryAnn how to instruct your kids on the best health outcomes for them. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more information on how to help your children.
Dear son, it's been hard these last few years, watching you grow up without me in the picture. Never taking the time to find out how you were or what was going on in your life. You're just a boy, I thought. You don't need me. I didn't need my dad. He was never around. I told myself. But I was wrong, son. I'm supposed to be a grown man. I was selfish. I was stupid. I was thinking of me, not you. If I could go back, son, and change things, I would. It's taken me all this time being selfish to finally grow up and realize I need to be a responsible man. That's what I finally learned, not from prison, but the TYRO program. It's all about becoming a better, stronger man. Wish I would have gotten it sooner. Everything looks different to me now. I'm a changed person. I know I need to be there for you now. It's not about me anymore. It's not about being cool. It's not about who I run with. It's about Mom. It's about you. It's about being a better man, learning something new in my life. It's about being a TYRO, a man worth following. I'm your dad. You're my son, and I love you. I am a TYRO. I'm a TYRO. Dad.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron TYRO.
And I'm Cathy TYRO, and today we have some very special guests with us that are talking about sex.
Sex,
in particular,
guys.
how to talk to your children about sex.
And you know what, this is a dear subject to me because I had to face a reality of, you know, my boys were 4 and 3, right?
Yeah. When
I went to prison. And then when they hit their puberty, 13, I was still incarcerated. Mm-hmm. And so I had to be equipped the best way I knew how. And there was no teachings, but nobody came to me and told me, we're gonna show you a great way to how to empower your kids that they don't have sex out of wedlock, that they can grow up. And so Cathy
or even why that was important, right? You know, really having
it wasn't
that
talked
foundation.
about. In fact, that's a subject that it's almost expected for your kids to be promiscuous. It's expected for your daughters to get pregnant. You know what? And I think society,
especially when you're
in prison, and I think society is allowed that type of normacy to plague.
So,
right?
So we're going to just kind of turn it over to you for a few minutes and let you two ladies talk about how can Dad really get that message, especially that he's in prison and maybe he's had his own mistakes that he's made. So between his mistakes and what society's saying, how are they going to do this?
Well, absolutely. You know, a lot of times people think, well, I can't really ask someone to do, and maybe a father will say, well, I can't ask my child to do something that I wasn't able to do. And they feel like hypocrites. But what we say is that it is not hypocritical to want something better for your child than perhaps you chose. That's actually a sign of maturity. And so we really need to move from a feeling of hypocrisy to a sign of maturity, because that's what a parent does. You know, a parent always wants something better for their child than perhaps they chose. You
know, that key word you said, maturity, because a grown man with little boy issues thinks like that. Well, because you know what, this is where I did it, that's where he's going to do it.
Right.
And not ever seeing that, and really deep down, every father, I think, really wants something better for their kids.
Absolutely.
But not believing that they can achieve that. So I really appreciate what you said. It's time to grow up.
Right.
And you know, there are incremental steps that can be taken when a father is not invested in their child's life. There are baby steps that you take. You know, it's asking your daughter or your son, what is it that you'd like to achieve? Where is it would you like to be by the time you graduate from high school? Or what would you like to see in a relationship? And start with baby steps. And then helping them to set up some steps to reach those goals. But goal setting, making a visual, putting it in, and realizing with them don't allow guilt to hold you back. The guilt and shame from addressing those issues that you know that got you to this place. And so if there's that void in that child's life, speak to that void and say, I know how, you know, there's something about the words feel, felt, and found. I feel you. You know, I have felt that way, but I found that this is how you
love
can work
that.
these steps out.
Yeah.
Feel, felt, found.
The 3 F's.
That's really
Feel,
powerful.
felt, and found. Love
I
it.
understand how you feel, and I felt that way too. But I have found
Ooh, I
that
love
when
it.
I take these steps, and so you're giving them some concrete things that they can put a hook into.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Not just throwing out a bunch of words,
Right.
but some things, and then checking with them. Check up on them, hold them accountable, find out how they're doing, and if they blow it,
It's
still
okay.
bolster them. It's okay. That's part of life. It's not that you fall, but it's getting back up and learning from that. That's what assisted me with one of my daughters. She failed. But okay, you did. But let's get back up. And look at her today, thriving because mom and dad didn't hold that over her.
Right.
You know, we didn't hold back on our own stuff. We allowed them to know where we had fallen and how we got back up again.
Oh, that's
get
powerful.
Back up again.
That's
Get
powerful.
Up again, back
That's
up
right.
again.
But we have a saying here that the world would tell you, you made your bed, and now you got to lie on it. But we say, take up your bed and walk.
Pick up your bed and walk.
That's right.
That's great.
That's
great.
How would you tell a dad? What are ways that dads can do two scenarios? So I've got two different scenarios. So the dad whose children have never experimented sexually and are just now starting to begin to ask questions about it. What are some practical tips and advice you would give to that dad on how they can communicate to their children? And second, the dad who knows his kids are already sexually active or have been, maybe they've already experienced pregnancy or any other unintended consequence. How would you have that dad bring back that message of sexual risk avoidance and going back to a place of abstinence?
Well, I'll start with the young child who's starting to come into puberty and going through puberty and starting to have sexual feelings. And a lot of times that can be a very chaotic time in a child's life. And they really need more guidance than less. So that's not the time to back away from them. That's the time to become more involved and to acknowledge, and I think Thelma said this before, acknowledge those feelings, that those feelings are good, that sex is wonderful. It's a good part of human development, but there's also a context for it. So basically we help them manage it, and they manage their growth.
So like anger management. It's okay to be angry. I'm going to teach you how to manage your anger or your
so that it's healthy.
Yeah, so it's healthy and doesn't become destructive.
Right.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
And you've got a son or a daughter who's involved in maybe premarital intimacies and they're involved out there. I think it's important we have a thing called success sequencing. And if we can just help those kids understand what needs to take place in order to be successful. You know, it's not necessarily about pregnancy prevention. It's probably poverty prevention.
Yes.
And one of the things to do that is a good education.
Yeah.
Get a good education. Focus on getting a job and then look toward waiting until at least 21 or married before you are even considering a job. But if you're already there, you don't stay stuck in that tunnel. Let's start finding a way. Where are you educational wise? You know, keep your focus on education. Do you want that for your son or daughter? And then understanding what it does to you emotionally and what you're putting yourself at risk physically for if you're continuing with multiple partners or not, not understanding the cautions that need to be put in place.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so very much. So listen, we're going to be right back.
Right. And we're going to wrap it all up with just a few more tips to help you help your kids. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon.
TYRO Dads will help you to see who you really are on the inside by coming to terms with your past, present, and future. You'll begin to move forward by using your time on the inside to transform yourself. We know you're not the only one serving time. Your family is too. Overcoming the issues that existed prior to and during incarceration are often more than what many families can survive. TYRO Dads has a unique method of reaching and healing families based on Ron and Catherine Tiarina's own personal experiences. TYRO Dads works exclusively with incarcerated fathers who have minor children. The program lasts for 10 weeks and focuses on intensive character development. You'll be taught to take responsibility for your actions. To own it, you'll be prepared to overcome the obstacles of incarceration and transition back into your home and community, both successfully and permanently. Upon successful completion of this program, you will earn the title of TYRO, which means a warrior, someone learning something new. You will be one of the honored, a man worth following. If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO, or you want to know more, contact your local project facilitator or your institution staff.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron Tiarina.
And I'm Cathy Tiarina, and we are having a great time today on the show with two of the local, I guess I would call it sex experts, or people experts in communicating the right, most healthy, higher health.
And not only
about sex.
local, but honey, they're from Washington,
national.
and Arkansas. And we're talking about national and international because their message resonates true all over the world, no matter what country you're from. And because sex is something that is in every culture. Right, right. If you have biological parents, I don't know, right? Then you were involved in somebody's sexual.
Oh, stop! Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Right.
So as we were finishing up the last segment, you were talking about the success sequence, and Ron has an acronym for that.
You know,
I love.
and I really love to empower fathers to understand this, and this is what we tell our kids. You know, listen, Dad, this is what you tell them. Desk. And this is real easy to remember, D-E-S-K, how you spell the word desk, because a child is going to be working at a school desk.
And
diploma,
they want to move into a desk,
we want them to move
Success.
into the D stands for diploma, right? You got to get a diploma, right? The next one is employment. Then spouse, then kids. And I believe
in that order.
In that order. You follow that sequence, you will make it.
Yeah. So as we close out the show, I'd really like each of you to share, like, if they haven't heard anything else, what's one concept, one thing you want them to remember about what we have to say?
Well, I would want every parent to know that they matter. They matter much more than you might realize. And that if they don't have high expectations for their children, really, who will?
That's right.
And they have the power in their words and their affirmation to change their child's life.
Oh, that's powerful.
Great word.
Awesome. Thanks,
And
MaryAnn.
those words can come in different forms, writing letters, verbally, but in all of it, love deeply. Love deeply. Even if you have not been loved properly, love deeply. Where the void of love that you felt, feel that in your child's life. Fill that void up in that child's life.
That is really, really powerful.
You know, this is a really, really needed conversation. This is we call this a courageous conversation because sex has always got the
taboo.
Yeah, you know, let's not talk about that. You know what? They're going to learn it in school, and parents allow the teacher in health class to teach really maybe not what they need to hear right now. They need to hear that, you know what? You are valued, you are valuable, and you can save yourself. You don't have to give it away, right? Because you are precious. And if you empower, we have a 14-year-old girl, and I remember the first time she told me this. She's 5 years old, and I sat on her bed, and she said, "Papa, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm sitting on your bed, sweetheart." She said, No, I'm saving this for my husband. Because we began in an early age. We're going to teach you to be a woman of virtue. We're growing up to be a young lady, right?
And it's so much bigger than the sexual act.
That's right.
You've got to understand that. It's so much bigger than just having sex.
That's right. That's right.
And the implications, the health implications are so profound. So if you want any more information or tips or tools, don't hesitate to let us know, and we will make sure that we get more information from MaryAnn and Thelma and make sure we get it to you to help you in your journey towards becoming the best father you can be.
You know, this has been an amazing experience for me. We are so grateful to have you on our show today. So listen, thank you for letting us be part of your journey. And always remember that we are rooting for you.